And we're live. It's Dragon's Voice. It's Dragon's Voice episode 2. Welcome, everybody. Croeso, Prynawn da, Borda, whatever you want to call it. James, pal.
Prynawn da. Good afternoon. Could be a bit better outside. I mean, it's been baking, and then it's been blowing a gale, and then it's been raining, and then it's baking. I don't know when to cut the lawn. It's frustrating. How's things, Reece? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm surviving as always. Keeping myself sane with just this new podcast that's going on. Well, we got a lot to talk about. So on this title, right, I know you're very outspoken, especially on Twitter, especially with me, but
No.
No, but we got a lot to talk about. We got to talk about the Welsh League, especially with Mike Harris, because he's our best friend, isn't he, James? So we're going to talk about the situations with a lot of people from Wales supporting clubs from England, and you've always been outspoken about that. But this is just purely a basic conversation or whatever the hell we can talk about, really. So let's get down to it then. So let me start off with the main one. We'll get the main one out of the way, and then we'll go gradually into the other things then. So you've been very outspoken about Wales, people from Wales supporting teams that are outside of the country. How come you've always been outspoken? What is it that makes you feel against the idea of other people supporting teams from England or teams from any part of the country then?
Well, firstly, if someone's going to support, whoever, an English team, and they live in Wales or whatever, that's fine. That's their choice. It's up to them, and I respect their opinions and their decisions. I just can't personally understand why someone would, not support the home turf. I'm not sure why you would support someone who's like 300 miles away. Just because they're sort of in the Premier League, where you could egg on your local boys, your town, your blood. That's what you're from, sort of thing. But I mean, I only throw around terms like armchair and plastic and glory hunter when I'm on the wind up really on Twitter, and I'm just trying to wind people up. I think I got a bite off Luke Cooper a couple of weeks ago, but we always have a bit of banter, me and Luke. And I just do it in jest most of the time. I say most of the time because sometimes I sort of extend the olive branch, and I try and grasp why people turn away from their hometown teams to support a team that's so far away. I just want to understand, really. I don't know where my brick wall is to not understanding that, but I can't grasp it. But yeah, I mean, it's like we've had conversations before. I mean, you've got family who support Everton, and you've sort of followed suit. But I've sort of been of the ethos of, when someone says my dad supports Liverpool, Man U, Everton, whatever. So if your dad jumped off a cliff, would you? Make your own mind up. But I mean, again, it's all down to you. What you reckon?
Oh, that's fair enough. No, it's like my dad. The reason why he's a diehard Everton fan is because majority of the players that were playing for Everton back in his day, most of them were Welsh. The likes of Neville Southall and Kevin Ratcliffe, Pat Van der Marel, all those lot, they were Welsh international players, and they were, the top Welsh players, and that's what attracted my father to Everton. Of course, there has been a few Everton players that have gone on to Welsh internationals that have gone on to play for Everton, including Simon Davies, Mark Pembridge, Gary Speed. There was all them lot. The reason why I started supporting him, I personally blame. Yeah, you could say, you followed your dad, so But what really attracted me was Duncan Ferguson and Simon Davies, the Welsh midfielder. That's what really attracted me. But even then, I was still a bit, I don't know. Everton may be my team then, but I was still trying to look for a route of who can I support. Then I tried Cardiff City. Now, don't get me wrong. It's never going to go away because there's too many pictures of me on covers. it's not going to go away. So I'm not. But I've never. The only time I know I've said this with you, but it's very hard when you're trying to have a conversation on Twitter because you don't know what the tone of the tweets are.
Yeah,
You kind of
exactly. And I think that's why I sort of rub people up the wrong way.
yeah.
Because if I ask an innocent question as to, like why not support your home turf, they feel like they're being attacked, and I'm just trying to have a discussion. But yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's fine because I know me and you have had that few mistakes in the past, and we've sorted it out on messaging, and it just turns out it's just miscommunication, and we just laugh about it. Yeah, we're mates, So, but I think when I was supporting Cardiff City, I mean, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the Ninian Park years. The Ninian Park years will forever be the best days of supporting Cardiff City. I think for anyone who supported, I mean, you support Cardiff City as well. There's always going to be that place in the heart where, it'll never go away. You can't take it out of yourself. You can take yourself out of it, but you can't take the Cardiff out of you, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what really done me in about Cardiff City was because when we went to the Cardiff City Stadium, that was when it started to die down a bit. Not rapidly, it just started to slow just a little bit per season. And what done me in was the Vincent Tan changing the red thing. I thought, that you're selling your soul to the devil, basically. Even though things have been turned around.
It alienated a lot of people. I think that left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, and some people are naturally more forgiving than others. I think, but I think the damage was irreparable for some, maybe including yourself. Do you think it's down to modern football commercialization of clubs, and it's being referred to as a business more than a sport these days?
Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it that football's become a monopoly where they're just relying on blood money. They're just relying on money, just to keep afloat instead of, what the actual meaning of getting behind a team is when, if you could go back in the 60s, 70s and 80s or even preferably the early 90s, football was relied upon teams winning, teams winning a cup or the league just to earn money and then go on to European competitions and to then earn a bit more money again. But now it's totally different. I mean, if you take a look at Man City now. I mean, Man City, if you were to say 25 years ago to a Manchester City supporter in somewhere in Manchester to say you're going to be Premier League, First Division or Premier League winning, you're going to take over the European continent of winning football, the Man City fan would just probably go, yeah, right, okay, yeah, but just going on to Cardiff, that's what really done me in. It's just like you're selling your soul to the devil, and the whole Cardiff City team changing your kit from blue to red. That was just a big sucker punch. I knew then I was going to leave after the Premier League. I thought I'm done. I had enough. I'm sick and tired of corporate football, and especially as well with corporate football, you got stewards who are telling you to sit down, don't say a word. Then you got other supporters who are just letting out their frustrations and then threatening to kick your head in, which I've had. I remember it was the Cardiff game against Fulham on the first Premier League season that Cardiff had. What was it? We were 2-0 up, I think. 2-1 up or something like that. I know we won 3-1, but I was having a laugh. I was having a giggle. And bear in mind, I was 16 years old, but I had a beard. I mean, my beard just grew out so much. Puberty kicked in at its finest. And I was, having a laugh, having a giggle. And bearing in mind, I was sat in the Ninian stand just right next to the away supporters, so I can give it a bit of lip and cheek, a bit of banter. But then there were a couple of supporters in front of me. And bearing in mind, I'm on my own. My dad's not with me. My mates are not with me. My dad's mates are not with me. I'm on my own. These couple of guys are just shouting at me saying, you do this every time. You can't shut your effing mouth, you little shit. I mean, I had the abuse. I had one guy just looking at me and I'm thinking, what have I done? I'm just being a football fan. And the one guy said, I'm going to knock you out when we get out. I'm going to stomp on your head. I'm going to do this. And this is a Cardiff City fan.
Wow.
And I'm not trying to say that every single Cardiff City fan is the same.
No.
That is not what I'm saying.
I think
What I'm
every
saying
club has people like that, don't they? Idiots, you know. But
yeah. And I just thought, oh, do you know what? I can't be dealing with it. I honestly cannot be dealing with this stupidity. But having seen it at the same time, because around about 2010, that's well, going back 10 years ago, I discovered Barrytown. So that's when I went to Barrytown, when I went to watch Barry, who are now my team, that I can actually support through thick and thin to the day I die. That's when the passion, I felt like I was somebody, the community feeling, the spirit, even though at that time we were going into so much scrutiny in terms of financial difficulties and that, it felt like home. So
yeah.
that's when I thought, you know what, bye Cardiff, hello Barry, you know.
But at the same time, I've got to ask. You know, you've told us about your displeasure with Cardiff and Vince Tan and dealings and how it all went. But then it could be argued that Barry went through an even worse thing with Stuart Lovering, and you know, you were a supporter then, and you weathered that storm. Like, I know obviously Cardiff is on a greater scale because, yeah, in terms of financially and in terms of, you know, just how big they are. But in regards to Barry, they actually died, you know, and for a brief period anyway. And I think that was much worse. And you know, you've weathered that storm, so
Yeah.
I have to question why didn't you weather the Cardiff City one, sort of thing.
Because at the same time, when, like I said about when I first started supporting Cardiff City, the Ninian Park years was brilliant. I would have believed if that ground would have still been there, I probably still would have been a Cardiff City supporter. I'm not saying the ground was entirely the reason.
I agree. The Cardiff City Stadium is one of these soulless shells that have been thrown up. Doesn't have any character really, but yeah.
And it's just, and when we went to the Cardiff City Stadium, it didn't die off straight away. It was just slowing down. There was no meaning. There was no matter. I mean, when I was at Ninian Park in the grandstand, I remember I didn't care if I just shouted out a chant. All of a sudden, the boys, well, everyone would just join in at Ninian Park.
Yeah.
You could just be some random fan. You could start off a chant, and then all of a sudden, the ground just joins in with you. Whereas in Cardiff City Stadium, you have to be in the Canton stand to stand up and cheer and joy and everything. And I just thought, no, how can you be sectioned? How can you be put into one side? It should be everywhere.
Pay your money, sit down, be quiet, sort of thing. You know, like.
You know what? I know a lot of people who are stewards who've done the same, and I know a few people who have actually done that. Told people to sit down and be quiet. I remember I confronted a friend of mine. I said, how can you say that to a supporter who is paying good money to go and watch their team, to say their opinions, to sing their hearts out? And he went, well, it's nothing to do with me. I went, well, it is something to do with you, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's got the higher authority than the supporter. You know, just let them be. As long as they're not causing trouble, as long as they're not causing any harm, what's the issue? You know?
Yeah, it's a shame because like back in the I say back in the day, I'm 30, but I mean, you know, back before my time, there used to be, you know, a goal would go in late on in stoppage time, and you'd have people jumping around the terraces everywhere, limbs everywhere, and they would be supporters. And now football clubs, I'd say most football clubs, they don't have supporters; they have customers. That's how I feel anyway. And the exception to that, one of the rare exceptions to that, I think, is Barrytown, because I feel like a supporter. And a lot of people, just going back to the original point, a lot of people, their counter argument or counter thing they say when I ask them about supporting English teams is they say, I support two clubs. Isn't that right, Reese? And yeah. So basically, just to explain that, you've got Barry in the Welsh League, and then you've got Cardiff in the English League. Now, if they were to ever meet in competitive competition, Barry all day. Like I'll be Barry through and through. I've lived here all my life. But since so many people, and obviously it's all over the place. The English Premier League is more publicised in Wales than the Welsh Premier League. That's another topic for discussion. But if I'm going to support a team in the English system, it's going to be one of the ones that are from Wales. And again, it's another topic for discussion whether the Welsh team should be in the Welsh League. But
I was going to trap you with that, because that's going to be one of the topics I was going to talk about now. And we can talk about it now if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. But what I was just going to say is, out of the 92 teams or whatever, I'll pick one of the Welsh ones that are there. So I've got like a Welsh League team and an English League team. But obviously I'm Welsh, so it's going to be Barry all day in the Welsh League if push comes to shove, really. So I hope that clears it up, and I might direct people with a timestamp to what I've just said if I ever get into a discussion like that again on Twitter. So, sorry, what was you going to say?
No, I was going to. Well, it's sort of relevant to the topics we're going to discuss, because I was going to move on to the one that's sort of similar, and what you just said then is, as a supporter, I mean, even myself really, but it's you got a lot of Cardiff City supporters, or even Swansea and Newport Wrexham, right? All right, they're a Welsh team, fair enough. I can't really dispute that, because that's a fact. It's common knowledge. But when it comes down to these Welsh clubs in an English league, right? Not that I'm not against it. Do not get me wrong. I find it difficult to try and answer that without someone going, typing away, keyboard warrioring, whatever you want to call it. But it's like when I support Barry Town, right, and then you got a Cardiff City fan or a Swansea fan, it could be anyone, and they are lambasting, they're slating, they're just basically trying to degrade Welsh League football. I can't fathom why would someone a supporter like that should do that to their own domestic league. I mean, by all means, I've said to a lot of Cardiff City fans, I mean, look, you go and support Cardiff, you go and support Swansea. They're Welsh at the end of the day. Go do that. That's no problem. But please respect the Welsh domestic league.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
what's your
Go on.
No, it's like I remember you and I, but this is going into like a twist and tale of a previous encounter, was because when on Twitter you don't know the tone of the tweet or whatever you're trying to say, but it's like when I've confronted a lot of those supporters when they say we don't need European football, and then they say they do, and it's like, well, go and join the Welsh Cup then. I'm not saying join the league, but join the Welsh Cup. And then they're like, oh, we don't want to join that shitty league, or we don't want to join that shitty cup tournament. We're far better than that, etc. And I always say to them, well, did you know that if your team is playing in the English league, right? If they win an English Cup or an English league and they qualify for Europe, they're not going to represent Wales. That's the harsh reality I always try to tell them. I was like, just keep that in mind, because that's what happened to Swansea. At first, they were worried that they weren't going to play in Europe because they were a Welsh team in England. But then they said, well, yeah, you have every right to, but you've won an English trophy, so you have to represent England. That's what I've always tried to say. And then there's supporters were trying to say, but we're Welsh. It's like, yeah, but you're going to represent England. That's what I'm trying to tell you,
Yeah, but for like European ties, when a club comes to Liberty Stadium or they go away somewhere, it's going to be Welsh flags everywhere. Well, with Swansea, they're more unionist, but I'm not much of a political speaker, so I won't get into it. But in regards to there's going to be Welsh flags there. There won't be English flags there. And if anyone sort of, when you represent whoever in a competition, people are going to go home, they're going to Google your team, or what are Swansea about if they don't know about them. And anyone with a bit of common sense is going to see the Swanseas in Wales. Like if Cardiff somehow got European football, and they competed in Europe, away, I'd go there with a Welsh flag. And anyone who says anything, I'd say I'm Welsh. We're Welsh. But yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying. That representing England, if you win, a sort of domestic cup, or if you qualify for Europe. But I don't think the fans would. The only thing that we're representing England is on paper. In person, I think we'd be flying the Welsh flag everywhere around the ground. I think that would just be thrown out of the window, really. But I know where you're coming from in terms of technically, we're going to be representing England, and in terms of Cardiff, Swansea, Newport going into the Welsh League and the country becoming one, so to say. I would like to see it happen, but then I wouldn't at the same time, because I think that it would be a massive. First of all, it would hurt these clubs who are in the English system, like especially Cardiff and Swansea. They would lose out on so much money, but then again, they would be vastly advantaged. It would be a handicap against everyone else. We think TNS of other sort of juggernaut. Wait until Cardiff and Swansea and Newport get in the league, and I think Barry Town and all the rest of them who are like even Connors Key, I think they'd be cut adrift, to be honest.
I don't want Cardiff or Swansea to come into the Welsh League because they're too. I don't want to say far advanced, because that's not the right word diplomatic wise. I think because they've grown naturally in that league system in the English, I don't want to wish a problem with them as much as I think, well, it sounds nice if Cardiff and Swansea do come in to the Welsh League. Even for Newport, I think they're just finding their own feet. I think they're starting to just get comfortable in that English league. But in regards to the likes of Wrexham and Merthyr, we had to talk about this, me and Dylan Ebenezer, in the first one. Yeah. We had to talk about this one, and even Dylan Ebenezer said, "Look, Cardiff, Swansea, and maybe Newport, just stay in the English league, because you've been through far enough. But for the likes of Wrexham, maybe, but Merthyr, you can't fathom,
Merthyr definitely, in my opinion, Merthyr definitely need to be in the Welsh League system, because they're not good enough. I don't think to. How do I word it? Basically, I think they're the same quality as Barry, Bala, Druids, Met. I think they're that quality. But some fans I've had discussions with, they seem deluded, to be honest. I'm not naming any names, but they think that they're head and shoulders even above TNS, and I'm just like,
yeah.
Colwyn Bay made the right move. They bit the bullet. Did they get? They didn't get promotion because of this whole thing, did they? Did they? I'm not sure.
No. They finished in the top 5, I think. They didn't finish in first or second. I know that.
Yeah.
They did well though. Considering it was their first season in the Welsh League, all right, their fan base dropped slightly when they first joined, but then it started to pick up again, and then they had record attendance. They had fan herds of 900, 1,000 people turning up now at their ground, which is what they need. That's why I always try and tell a lot of Merthyr fans, but I don't want to get into it that much, because I would like to have a proper discussion with one Merthyr fan, and maybe I don't want it to be a Barry fan, but it could be any Welsh League fan, and just say, right, let's go for it. Where's the pros? Where's the cons?
Yeah.
Let's just have a proper discussion about it, because most of the time if you try and have a proper discussion about that sort of topic or debate on Twitter, it's going to go downhill and it's going to get bad.
Yeah.
Because I've had that fair share of Merthyr fans slagging me off. I know where I stand with it, but I don't want to keep carrying it, talking about it on this show, because I want people to come together and just say, right, it's Wales at the end of the day. But
John, what I'd like to see is I'd actually like to see Cardiff, Swansea, and Newport's youth systems, or certainly a developmental under-23s, get access maybe to the Welsh Cup, or maybe like that FAW Premier Cup that they used to have, or it might have morphed into something else.
Make it matter more as well, I think.
What's that?
make the FAW Premier Cup. If you're going to bring it back, make it mean something, because that's the whole problem. The problem you had with the FAW Premier Cup, from what I've gathered anyway, was the fact that it wasn't taken seriously, because whenever Wrexham, I know Wrexham were the winners all the time of the FAW Premier Cup, and I spoken to one or two Wrexham supporters, and they said it just didn't matter. You just had this wooden ball. It's like, thanks.
Yeah.
Make it matter. If you, or even still, I agree with you where, have the under 23s represent Cardiff, Swansea, Newport in the Welsh Cup. But then it's always the question, though, if they won it, who would represent Cardiff in Europe, if you know what I mean?
I don't know. See, I don't know about... It's hard. I want it to mean something, but I don't think it would warrant Europe, because we've already got the Welsh Cup, we've got the Cup and the playoff places and that. But I'd like to see all clubs in Wales, regardless of league system, come together under one sort of tournament at least once a year. I mean, I used to enjoy watching BBC Two Wales, and you had might have been Jason Mohammed in his earlier days, and
Welsh football.
No, I mean no.
Excuse me.
Wales, you'd see Newport at Jenner Park playing Barry, and it'd be like, wow, Barry on TV. I used to enjoy them games. I mean, I was young and I didn't know that they didn't mean as much, but it was still cool to see, Barry playing a sort of English League team. So it'd be good to just get all teams under one banner, sort of thing. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Anyway, but let's talk about, here we go, Conrad Thompson quote of the. This is going to be like a thing between me and you on this show, though. Let's talk about this or something like that. Let's talk about Mike Harris and TNS and where we stand with them. Now, we know between me and you, I'd love it if us two actually went to Oswald Street. If we had an email sent to Mike Harris and said, look, let's put our cards on the table. We'll get the equipment. Let's have a proper chat about it. What's the club's ambitions? What's his ambition? Whatever. Because at the moment, the reason why I think Mike Harris is not a fan is because he's a sore loser. He's the whole TNS club, the New Saints club, is a farce, because it's not a Welsh club anymore. They're saying they're representing Wales and England. I highly doubt that. But I want to know what he thinks about certain aspects, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But what is your opinion on TNS, New Saints, Total Network Solutions, whatever you want to call them? Where do you stand with that club as a
They're grounders in England. They train in England. They have a lot of English players. They have an English owner. They're English. Next. Basically, I'd like to see, and they win it they win the league every year. And let's face it, credit, well done to Andy Morrison and his boys. I had a bit of banter with Jamie and Sol on Twitter, as always, but well done to his boys and them. But if the season continued, probably TNS would have pulled away with it towards the end, and they're dominant almost every year. I'd like to see them test themselves at a higher level. Enter yourself into the English leagues and see where you can go with things. Because really, are you being ambitious? You pretty much are an English club. I just feel that they lack ambition as a club, really, from top to bottom. None of them really want to push on and get greater things, and they're happy trouncing part-time teams who train on Tuesday and Thursday, and and they get paid in sausage and chips and a free pint. Why don't you test yourself at a higher level? But that's just my opinion, of course.
No, I fully agree with you, because every time I go up to TNS, though, go into their quote-unquote clubhouse. It's not a clubhouse. It's like
A
It's
leisure
like
centre.
it's like a leisure centre. Exactly. It's got a bowling alley. All right, it's got a bar, but then you got like a play centre, which I sometimes feel tempted just to do like a Mick Foley and Undertaker Hell in a Cell sort of match in it.
Front
You
flipper.
know, but it's just not a football atmospheric welcoming, if you know what I mean. It's not really welcoming in terms of football. It's just welcoming in terms of, oh, welcome to Joyland or the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. You know, that
Yeah.
sort of vibe. It's like,
On,
well,
on a serious note, do they pay that guy that wears pajamas to go to all of their games?
I think so. Apparently, he's a developmental officer, or he's an officer or something.
He's something.
It's
But
it's something. But I remember when Evan Press scored that goal for Barry. Now, again, I don't want to keep mentioning Barry a lot on this show because I don't want to show any bias approach, even though it's not, you know, it's not a no-brainer that I support Barry, you support Barry, etc. But I remember when Barry were winning and we were celebrating, and all you had is it's like Mike Harris giving it the old mouthing off and everything, and then there was like TNS kids, and they were chanting "Stand up if you've won the league," and we were just looking at them going, "You've clearly just neglected your own history. Either that, or you're just too young and dumb to understand that we've won the league too."
yeah, exactly. But it's I think people. I don't know. I just think that a lot of people are sort of living in TNS fans. They're just living in the now up there, really. And
Whatever TNS fans are there.
nothing happened before them. But but at the same time, if you're from Oswestry, like I'm going back to my point. If you're from Oswestry, and you want to support a local team, then I'm happy, and I respect the NS fans, and whatever. But yeah, I think Mike Harris is he's a character, and I think that's the best way to put it without being too controversial.
You can be controversial if you want.
No, but it's sometimes he can let his emotions get the best of him. I think, and I think that's shown in a couple of his tweets. Recently, where he's calling for the Welsh League to be sort of restarted, conveniently after they decided that Connors Key had won it. You didn't hear a peep from him before, but then when Connors Key had been awarded the title, now he wants to restart the league. So it's you draw your own conclusions to that narrative.
Yeah. Well, he's not going to be seen or located at a pride parade anytime soon or anything like that. So
yeah, well, there's that, but that's a tin of worms if we get into that, I think.
Yeah, picking worms and everything. Go on then. Let's quickly move on because I think that'll be another discussion for another day. And I think if I can try, I'll get Mike Harris to come on, and me and you will have a proper discussion, if you know what I mean. But yeah, let's talk about Wales International anyway, as supporters and all, because at the end of the day, this whole show is about getting fans on there to talk about their stories and that. And of course, you're going to be frequently on this show now as a co-host. I want to know about your stories of supporting Wales. What are the best times, the worst times? What are the matches you remember mostly? It's like for me, if I was talking about my days of supporting Wales, following my country, I think one of the very first Wales games I went to was Wales v Northern Ireland, and we drew 2-2. And I remember it was Robert Earnshaw, Robbie Savage. It was the John Toshak era, so we didn't have Gary Speed. Yeah, we didn't have. Yeah, I was born, but here's the thing though. I was born in '96, so I was born during or probably the early stages of Bobby Gould's era. Then we went into Mark Hughes, but I was too young to remember that era. Then I started to recollect the days of John Toshak, where we lost to lower ranking teams, lower than us, and I was just utterly impressed. just a bit, just a tad. And I remember Northern Ireland game, which was 2-2, and I think Robert Earnshaw nearly scored with a Pele. I think that was it. That's all I can remember.
During the Toshak era, I actually left. Pardon me. I actually left before half time in one of the last games at the Millennium Stadium, and that was Slovakia. I think we were 5-0 down after about 35 minutes, something like that. At home, I left, and I was back home just after the second half had started, and I watched that at home. And the whole Toshak era was just horrific for me. I feel anyway. But that era was the genesis of a lot of our star players that we've had in recent years. Gareth Bale, and obviously towards the end of it, beginning of Gary Speed, Aaron Ramsey.
It was the birth of a team that was going to take Wales to success and everything.
Yeah.
But my recollection of the Toshak era, it was just a disaster for a man who was a star player for Wales, who could have taken Wales further if they would have tried. But at the same time, it's like I just remember being, because it was 6 years he was in charge, 6 or 7 years, or even a little bit longer.
Quite a lengthy period.
Yeah, but it felt like it went on forever. It didn't feel like 6 years. It felt like over 10 years, even 15 years. It was just unbearable. But I just couldn't understand where, what went wrong, because this was a manager who was managing in his time Real Madrid, Real Sociedad. He was managing decent teams, great clubs and everything. And then all of a sudden, when he went to his second spell with Wales, just never really came to fruition. Never connected, really.
I just feel like it was a transitional period, really. We were coming out of the era of, Hearts and, Giggs, you could argue, had passed his prime. Speed, like Simon Davies. Basically, the relative success that we had during the Mark Hughes. I'll let you put your charger in.
No, it's fine. Carry on anyway.
The relative success we had during the Mark Hughes period, where we almost got to the Euros. I feel that ember had sort of flickered out, and then I feel that it was just transitioning towards like Gary Speed and what he did, and Chris Coleman. So I think that was just it was. I can't really say much else than that. It was dire, to be honest. Yeah. You always like to play a 5-3-2 as well. I always remember Sam Ricketts, being a wing back, and I was just like, he's absolutely terrible. But then there's me. I'm not a professional footballer, so what am I to say?
It's just remembering, some of the moments and memories of what we can share as being a Wales fan.
My first Wales memory, actually, I'll tell you that, is Ninian Park, 1998. We beat Belarus 3-2, and it was I think it was a world. What's that?
Bobby Gould was managing.
I think that was it. Beat Belarus 3-2. And that was in the first handful of times I'd actually been to Ninian Park. I'd been a couple of times before just to see Cardiff, but I think I was 8. And I was on the Bob Bank with the terraces. And when the third goal went in, it was just absolute limbs, pandemonium everywhere. I think someone even lit a flare. And then moving on, I remember a good personal memory for me. My late mum and dad took me to watch Wales play Germany, and we beat them 1-0, and Robert Earnshaw scored. And obviously Robert Earnshaw was playing for my team Cardiff at the time, so it was like the dream result. And I think that was about a year before Cardiff went up in that stadium as well. So it was all a very joyful period for me. What about memories for you? I know you were a bit later on.
Well, I don't know, because I've experienced a lot of games where, I experienced a few John Toshak games. But every time the only Toshak era games I remember is that Wales v Northern Ireland game, the Wales v England game where we lost 2-0. I know there was a few more. I think me and my mum went to watch Wales v Bulgaria in the Cardiff City Stadium. But I think at the time, Toshak was out and Brian Flynn was taking over as caretaker manager. And then Gary Speed came along.
Yeah.
I don't recall going to any of the games. Maybe I did, but I was offered to go and watch Wales v Norway. And that was Gary Speed's last match as manager for Wales until his untimely death. But then I started to go a lot more because what Gary Speed had done.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to follow the success. It was just the fact that every time I went to a Wales game, Wales lost. And I felt like, I'm a curse, so I'm not going to go to any of the games. And then Chris Coleman came, and then I think it was I remember going to Bosnia and Herzegovina, whatever the last name is. I went to the Bosnia game. We won that game. We beat Cyprus as well, and I went to the few of the home games. So that was when I started going a lot more. But now I'm a Red Wall member.
Yeah.
I can go to the away games hopefully in the future.
John McAllister's your guy for that, and Ian Johnson.
Fellow
Barry fans. Get him on the show. Talk about Wales away and their away trips. Welsh football away trips. Hey, that'd be a good idea. Get a couple of the groundhoppers on, like John, Joe Regan. They'd have some good stories, I bet.
Oh yeah, we could get Joe to speak.
Oh yeah. But I don't think you were following success when you started sort of going more frequently to Wales, because with the greatest respect to Gary Speed, we weren't really successful, relatively speaking, to what Chris Coleman did and what Giggsy's doing. But I think it was just the most valuable person to me through that period of Toshak, Speed, Coleman, Giggs was Speed, because Speed planted the seeds, and then Coleman was the one who cultivated the whole success. And the most emotional match I've ever watched of any team ever has got to be Wales Belgium, and I was jumping around the room with tears in my eyes with my 5-month-old son. He didn't know what was going on. He was scared out of his life, and I was a wreck. I was a wreck that night. I'll tell you.
Was that which one was that? Was that when they were in France, or was that the home match? Or
oh no, sorry. Yeah, I should have said no. It was the Euro game in the quarterfinals when we qualified.
I remember it well. I remember it so well. I remember being in the Wetherspoons pub. I remember, of course you have to be in the Wetherspoons pub, but it was in Barry, and I remember it was me, my mate Jack Phillips, and his dad, and we went with some of their family friends. And as we were watching it, the first goal went in. It was for Belgium, and I'm thinking,
what it was a nice strike that was.
It was, and in all fairness, I thought, you know what? I wouldn't. I said I don't mind losing out to Belgium in the quarterfinals because it was a nice run. I thought, it's a nice run. Okay, just accept it. But then
they were ranked number 1 in the world at that time.
Oh yeah, they were. And who scored the first goal? Was it Ashley? Yeah, Ashley Williams. He scored with a header, and we went no. And then Hal Robson-Kanu scores the goal of the tournament. Just a little turn around, Johan Cruyff style, outsmart Fellaini and them lot, and then scores one of the best goals ever. And then Sam Vokes just adds in that little too sweet little moment.
The resistance, as they say.
But as a fan, we can always talk so highly about Wales in Euro 2016. But because of the current situation now with 2020 moved to 2021, but where do you see, as a fan, where do you see Ryan Giggs finishing with Wales in terms of that tournament? Or how far do you think he'll go with them?
I don't know, because it was such an overachievement in France in 2016. I feel like it was a sort of one-off. I feel like the way we've played against teams in our qualifiers, we've drawn against Croatia. We've lost. Did we lose? I think we lost to Hungary. It hasn't been a dominant performance anyway. I feel like, to be honest, I don't think we'll get out of the group. That's the realist in me coming out, but my heart says that we've done it before. We can do it again. I mean, Italy are playing basically a home game in Rome against us. If that's still going to be the plan around Europe, and if the plans stay as they are, I think, is it Turkey we've got? Turkey's almost a home game in Azerbaijan compared to where we're coming from.
Yeah.
And I think they'll be very tough games. I can't see us getting out of the group, but we can put performances on against people like England and Belgium, and anything's possible really. So I don't really want to speculate. I just want to see it play out really.
No, I agree with you, mate. Well, we've gone on for this time. How do you feel? First podcast for many.
What's the time? Let's have a look. Wow, we've covered a lot of time, a lot of ground. But yeah, I'm buzzing. It's nice to be back talking with you. We had a good time on the Barrytown podcast that we were doing until the current situation hit.
Yeah.
But it'd be good to discuss things about Welsh football in whole going forward, and hopefully we'll have a couple of interesting faces to talk with as well, and we can all have a chinwag really. That's what it's about.
Well, that's the whole point now, and hopefully I don't have to do Skype or Zoom or anything like that. Like this, I can actually get a proper equipment and yours. We can drive to wherever we need to go and speak to them face to face. Whoever we got to talk to.
I'll be billing you for my electric use as well, because you've battered my battery, Reese. Okay?
So you've battered mine. All right then. Well, thank you so much for coming on the Dragon's Voice episode 2. It means a lot, James. Thank you so much. And I'll be hoping to see you very soon in the following episodes that are going to come. We can talk about anything to do with Welsh football, any facts, trivia, anything.
I'm happy to do whatever. Let's create a bit of controversy as well, Shreesh. Open a couple of tins of worms along the way. I'm only kidding, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice talking anyway.
Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and this has been Dragon's Voice episode 2. I've been your host, Reece Deans. Also, co-host James Clements. Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys very soon. Take care.